Today's show is for Matterport service providers that are shooting either new multifamily communities of homes and apartments or commercial spaces, particularly the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing spaces, MEP spaces of commercial spaces. Stay tuned to find out more. Hi all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, and you're watching WGAN TV live at 5. We have an awesome show for you today. Intro to SimLab Simon plus Matterport for Internet of Things integrated with KNX, SmartThings, and Fibro. That's a lot to say. We're going to unpack that during today's show. And what better person to tell us about SimLab Simon is the product owner, Mikhail Shopa. Hey, Mikhail, good to see you.
Hello, hi. Hello, Dan. Thank you very much for the introduction and invitation for this show. And I'm really appreciated that I can participate and show you and your audience the information and our product, which is Simon. It's the new digital twin property experience for everybody, especially for the homeowners, for the facility managers, and for the offices, property managers that can use our solution for everyday work in their properties.
Awesome. Which is why I wanted you to be my guest on today's show, because that SimLab Simon adds so much value to a Matterport digital twin. Why don't we begin? Because I really, by the end of the show, want Matterport service providers to be able to understand how they can help their existing clients get new clients and even add additional services to their offering. In terms of multifamily communities, might be homes, might be apartments for rent, what problem does Simon by SimLab solve for multifamily communities, either the owner or the property managers?
First of all, the information and transmitting to the clients, the customers, and the guests. I'm according to my work, many times I'm traveling and going somewhere else, and I have many problems with the some smart installation in this homes, in this rent spaces. First of all is the interface. The interface in every system is the same. Is the flat to the icons in some Polish, English, Ukrainian, and some other language. But in our goal was creating something universal, and the Matterport scan and the visual is universal language for everybody. Everybody can use it in one look. You know where you are and what you can turn off, turn on, what is the state of the IoT controllers, and also the information about the assets, because this one is also very important, that I want to have some information about very simple thing, but the Wi-Fi password. Yes, I can go inside the Simon solution and see what is the password, what is the manual for the TV, the program list, and so on.
So this example might be a property management company for Airbnbs or VRBOs or luxury homes. And so when you rent that property, you're having a challenge is what's the Wi-Fi password? How does the TV work? Yeah. What's the manual for how to use a device that's in the kitchen? So help me understand a little bit more about what problem is it solving to have a digital property management visual representation within a Matterport tour versus maybe a stack of manuals or some things glued to the taped to the refrigerator.
Yeah, it's very complicated because the problems is there is many problems. First of all is the marketing during the selling the property, yeah, because also our solution is provided to the house builder, the big house builder. We have some one in Poland. It's called Echo Investment, and Echo building something like 25,000 units per year. And for them, it's the great tool for the marketing thing, because they can show the property before they sell it for the client digitally. Client didn't want to come and see it, that he can get the virtual tour with every information about the furnitures, the materials used for the building. And also after the selling, it's not necessary to give the client the very big box of the paperwork with some manuals, every information, that everything can be stored digitally in the Matterport scan in our layer using the Siemens solution as well.
So it might have been that that's a property builder of 25,000 plus units. Yeah. So in their case, first they recognize that Matterport Digital Twins is a great tool for selling the properties, but there now needs to be a handover that you buy the property. How do I know all the help me out here? So I probably have all the warranties on all the appliances. I have all the manuals on all the appliances. I have the quick instructions for how to run something. I imagine today we're also talking about smart sensors. Do you want to talk a little bit about, I don't even know what a KNX Smart Things Fibro is, and yet SimLab Simon provides that solution. Help me understand those terms and how that matters.
Okay. First of all, using the same example, the Echo Investments also is in the standard equipment in the new property is putting some Fibro devices. It's IoT devices that can be mounted into the socket on the wall, for example, for the light switch, and it can be steering remotely using your smartphone. Yes. But in many properties, you have the one application for example, Fibro, second one for the SmartThings, third one for your Roomba vacuum cleaner and everything. We want to store it into one application and steering all the home using your cell phone, using your browser, and using the Matterport scan. The Fibro, SmartThings, and the KNX, it's the IoT and home automation providers. They are producing the devices in different technology, because the SmartThings and the Fibro is using the Wi-Fi technology, and the KNX, it's the global standard for more than 500 manufacturers, and they are producing the very professional wired controllers and devices to steering your home. For example, the light, the blinds, the everything you have in the home connected to the electricity, you can steering and managing. And we are putting the layer of visualization that is first in the world using the 3D scan of the real property.
So let me see if I can unpack that. There's a lot there. So let's say this builder is selling homes where there's lots of automation. You press a button and the curtains go up and down. You press another button and the temperature goes up or down. You press another button and the TV set goes on or off. You press another button in the front, enter some buttons, and the front door opens or closes, or the garage door opens or closes, or that you can remotely start your dishwasher or your clothes washer. And all these devices are Internet of Things, smart devices, and there are many different standards that these manufacturers are using. And it's like, oh gosh, I need one app to run my curtains, and one app to run the temperature, and one app to open the front door. And I think I'm hearing something different about how SimLab Simon solves that disparity of different technology standards.
Yeah, this is our goal, to get the one app to rule them all, and have the new experience also for the visualization, because this is also very important for that.
Well,
And
so if there's one dashboard that aggregates all the different various technologies so that you don't have to have a different app to run the different devices in the house, why is it important that it be within a Matterport digital twin within this container?
Because we can also storage many information about the house. This is one thing, using the assets. We have also the layer for the maintenance and the facility management, the very small right now, very small part, but we can manage some terms of the periodic maintenance and so on. And next thing, very important one, is that we can connect different providers with different standards into automatization scenes. It's also the first one in the world that we can connect, for example, the KNX standard with the SmartThings and the Fibaro and so on other providers using the same one automatic scene. Right now it's impossible, because if you have some, for example, the light connected to the KNX and the motion sensor connected to the Fibaro, you can't connect it to using like that you are moving somewhere, the sensor is getting your move and turning on the light using the KNX standard. It's not possible right now. We are changing it.
So let me ask in terms of categories, because if I go to the simlabinc.com website, simlabinc.com, then select under the menu Simon, or if I go directly to the Simon website, sim-on.com, the information is presented in categories. So I'm going to ask you a category, and let's see if I can understand the category as it applies to SimLab Simon, maybe of what the feature is and also what the problem that it solves in this case. For we'll stay with the example of a company that's building 25,000 homes and has this handover. Asset management, what does that mean? What is that feature? And what problems does that solve?
This is data container for all information about the equipment you have in your property. Of course, the Matterport have matter tags and is awesome, but our assets, it's some more on the steroid, yeah, because we can put in the asset information of the free text, some free text of the asset you want to put inside. Also, we can put some photographs, the PDF files, movies, and the maintenance layer, as well as the terms what you need to do in the future to get the asset correctly working. For example, the maintenance, replacing the toner of the printer, so on, so on, so on. And
well, that actually seems like it begs a second category would be scheduling and maintenance. So if you have all these assets, and maybe we take the heating and air conditioning unit, the HVAC unit. How does scheduling and maintenance work regarding the HVAC asset that's in the house?
Yeah, you can plan, for example, the cleaning the air conditioning. Yeah, you can put some term, and the system will remind you that it's needed to be clean. We are planning also the automatically connecting the asset and the maintenance to your service guy. Yeah, and he automatically get the information that hello, there is needed to air conditioning cleaning. Please put my property to your schedule and make some term for me to get and do it done. Yeah,
I think I experience a little bit of that now. My printer actually orders its own toner cartridges from Amazon.
Yeah, that is also our goal, to get some in the future some e-commerce layer for those example as well, and not all, because our future plans is a little bit wider, and we want to, maybe not now, it's not a good moment to talk about it, but yes, Dan?
Well, e-commerce is a coming soon feature of SimLab, Simon. So since you mentioned it, or I mentioned it, can you tell us more about what's coming regarding SimLab, Simon meets e-commerce integration?
Yeah, we want to integrate not our, but the Matterport scan, and automatically recognize what equipment you have or the client have in their houses, and connect it to some shops like Amazon, like some other big shopping providers, and also furniture providers like IKEA, maybe. Nobody knows.
So it literally might be just like what I mentioned with my printer, is that it's all managed within one container, the container being a Matterport digital twin, and that I can set up the schedule, whether the schedule is a service visit to service my HVAC, or it's a purchase something that's a consumable.
Yeah, but not it's not enough, because we want also to get the customers some advising about buying new things in their home. If our analytics will recognize that you have TV and the TV is a little bit old, small, we can put the 3D model into the Matterport scan and give you the information. Hey, I have the new TV with very great price. You can buy it from those or those shop, for example.
Okay, so e-commerce coming. IoT device control. So we talked about some of the smart sensors in a house, whether it's the temperature, the curtains going up and down. How does that work? I imagine we're talking about maybe different than an asset. An IoT device control might be a dynamic piece of data, something that changes temperature, pressure, movement.
Changing and monitoring, because in the one view you can check what is your temperature in your room, what is the status of your blinds, if you are home or not in home, if you get the garage door closed or not, and such things. And the most important thing also is the power consumption of the equipment you have, because some of the devices, the IoT devices, have also the power consumption meters inside, and we can visualize how many your money is spending for some equipment you have on in your house, and maybe not necessary. And our AI algorithms also will advise you information about that. Hey, maybe you can turn it off, your TV, and on standby mode, because there is taking your money day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour. Yes.
So if the example is your property manager for many rentals, that you can actually see, that guest moved out. We don't have somebody moving in for a week, but we can see that they left the temperature on. We can now remotely change the temperature back to X number of degrees, rather than sending somebody physical to the space to actually touch the temperature physically to make a change. So you manage the space remotely.
Yeah, or make it automatically, because it's also the scene manager, and you can make some very easy the scene that if there is no move for 6, 10, 12 hours, please change the temperature from in the winter from 22 degrees up to 15 degrees. Yes, and system will get it automatically.
So that may bring us to maybe another future Simon by SimLab feature, is real-time positioning tracking. I could imagine that if you don't see any motion from people or pets, that may affect changing the temperature so that you're
Yeah,
not wasting
but
energy.
this feature is a little bit different, because in this feature we want to monitor where is some item with some small tag, or the people inside the building. And it's more or less for example, good example is the hospital, yeah, and you are looking for the wheelchair and nobody knows where the wheelchair is. You can go inside our solution, and in the Matterport dollhouse you can see that the wheelchair is on the second floor in the room 125. And it's for those, also for some warehouses, for some making for the elderly people monitoring, because we want also the connecting, monitoring and positioning the people and pets and every item with some monitoring of the life parameters, some smart band or something like that. If you have the older people inside the property, you can also monitor how it looks and making some alarms if somebody wrong, with the exact information where the person is in the building.
So today my wife says, "How'd you sleep?" In the future I'll be able to say, well, let me check Simon by SimLab to see how I slept.
Yeah,
because there'll be a sensor for
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
And I may or may not give her permission to know how I sleep to be able to check that device. A few other future items. AR for ultimate immersive experience. What does that mean?
It's the more or less the I will check one thing.
I guess I can imagine that if I came up to the TV, to the remote control, and I used my phone, I could know that I could seize that remote control now gave me information on my phone about how to use that remote control.
Yeah.
Would that be?
But also using the camera of your cell phone. Okay, it's not sync. Using the camera of your cell phone, you get the artificial reality and get the information about what is in the side of your camera. If there is this item you want to tracking, you can also track using the camera. And you
on your smartphone. So
yeah, on your smartphone.
It even, I mean, we've been talking about residential real estate, homes, apartments, rentals. But if we're talking about a commercial office space, we may very well be talking about how to wayfinding, how to go find your way through the commercial space.
Yeah, some path for the customer, for the guests, and also for the employees. For
even I imagine in a mechanical, electrical, plumbing space, an MEP space, there may be a reason to show the local facility manager this is the way you want to walk around the MEP equipment in order to look at different pieces of equipment to be making some decisions. Go feel that hose. Is it cold? Is it hot? You may need to do something.
And also for the some servicemen, because we get also the other example that we had spoke with the client, that he told us that they are servicing the air conditioning, and they have such problem that client is only putting then the information air conditioning is not working. Okay, but in the building is 100 air conditioning units, and which one? It's a problem. Using the Matterport and the scan and our solution, the client can put the information directly in the 3D space of this particular and the air conditioning unit. Okay, this one is not working, and the service guy is getting the information. Where is the unit? They need to fix it, and what is the path to go there.
And maybe for that tech also to be able to just take a picture with the phone to call up the manual for that particular device if they're not familiar with it.
Yeah.
So that would be AR meets Matterport via Simon, powered by SimLab. Other coming soon future goals, multiple IoT device standards. Did we touch on this already, that we have?
Yeah, we touched this already, because right now it's many IoT standards of the devices on the market.
So you talked about KNX as a standard, 500 manufacturers using it, the Schneider Electric KNX standard. You'd mentioned the Samsung Smart Things and Fibro. Those are all things that are working today. Do you have other platforms, other standards that will be implemented by SimLab? Is there future IoT device standards other than those three?
Yeah, we are now focusing on the Matter standard. It's not yet ready, but it's our focus that will be standard for the wireless IoT devices, using also by Samsung SmartThings, but also the IKEA IoT smart solutions. The Tuya, it's the Chinese manufacturer of many devices on the European, US, and Chinese market, and many other. That will be a very similar standard to the KNX, but KNX is wired and professional standard, and the Matter will be the wireless, strictly IoT standard for many manufacturers.
Google Nest. I do remote management. My mom's a little bit older than I am, and I manage her temperature in her living room through a Nest. Is that something that I would be able, a Google Nest, to be able to do within the Simon platform?
Yeah, because Google is also in the Matter standard will come, and we can also using this one as well.
So if you enable the Matter standard, that automatically brings in Google Nest devices.
That brings us many manufacturers. Every manufacturer will be in the Matter standard, also will be in our solution as well.
Okay. Integration with asset database and professional facility management systems. What does that mean?
Yeah, we want to import the information and automatically creating the tags and the assets for some equipment with the information about the maintenance, and making all the visualization we have connecting to the professional facility management system. And also this one I mentioned about the automatically recognizing the equipment you have in your home with the tagging using the artificial intelligence and algorithm we get implemented.
Okay, if I could go back to the facilities manager at the moment, I imagine there are facility manager platforms for managing an MEP space. And I think what I'm hearing is if I'm entering something into that management system about a device, it's automatically going to show up within my Matterport digital twin that I'm using SimLab Simon.
Yeah, for example, the documentation that will be automatically imported to our solution, and the only thing you need to do is to put into the 3D space, and that's all.
So I think what that kind of leads to is that if I'm the facilities manager for a commercial office space, or maybe 100 properties in multiple states or multiple countries, I'm not asking for double entry by my team. I'm not asking you to put it in the facilities management content management system and to annotate separately in the Matterport space. You would only need to annotate once in the FM platform, but it would also automatically show up into the Matterport digital twin in the appropriate tag.
Yeah. And the only thing you need to bring this tag and put into the 3D space. That's all. It's very simple and very fast without any knowledge. And for every user, it will be also very intuitive, because they don't need to putting inside some very complicated professional system. They can use the visual experience of the digital space.
Or they can use the tool that they're already comfortable with as a facilities management platform and have it automatically
Yes,
annotate in the correct space.
Of course,
Okay.
yes.
Secured desktop version.
Yeah, we are working with some desktop and also mobile version of the standalone application, because some of our clients want to have the offline version of our solution for some reasons, that they want to put it into the world, into the internet, and want to have the on-site version. And we are working to get some standalone application. And
so
also
that seems like it would make sense. I'm a facilities manager. I just want my team to know about the MEP space. I don't necessarily want that to be a public Matterport digital twin, and I only want it to show up within my company's intranet. I think that's what we're talking about.
The good example is some of factories, and the automotive factories have very strictly secured, need to be very strictly secured, and they put inside every information about it. They don't want to put it on the internet. That will be solution for those.
So we've been talking a lot about multifamily communities of homes and apartments, and we've also talked about rentals. When we've touched on the MEP space for facilities managers, are there other problems that SimLab Simon solves for facilities managers?
For mostly problem is the communication with the user of the space, because right now we also adding some chat function, and every user can connect to the administration, connect to the facility manager if something wrong, if they want to order something, if they want to change something. That will be tool also to put the visual information to the facility manager and get the communication between them, because right now there is many platforms for communication like Jira, like some other stuff, but it's every time it's not so intuitive and get some deepest knowledge how to manage, how to work it. But right now we have the very nice interface and very nice tool to such communication.
Why don't we jump into a demo? Take a look at SimLab Simon. I think I've enabled you to share the screen if you want to jump in. And as you're showing us a front end example, is if you could talk to us about it. Either I'm a property manager, or I'm the owner of multifamily, or in fact, the builder that you're describing that does 25,000 homes, or the MEP space. If you could, that would be awesome. I can see your screen.
Okay, great. This is our website of Simon solution. It's sim-on.com.
It's a little bit small, so if somebody's watching on their iPhone, let's just say it's sim-on.com. And we've gone to the microsite, but if you want to go to the parent company site, SimLab, that would be simlabinc.com. Okay, great. Thank you. Forgive me for interrupting.
No problem. Our solution is 100% web, and only what do you need is the computer or the smartphone with some browser. We are using mainly the Chrome browser and the Safari for the iOS and macOS systems. And here we have the information about our solution, some teasers with some short movies about the IoT asset and the maintenance functions. Below we have the capture tutorial, quick start, every information you need to making your own apartment. Some free of public links. You can click it, go inside, and make your experience.
So let's jump into it. I want to see the finished cake. What's the final product? I don't even need to know how to make it yet. You got to get me excited about what the final Simon, tell us what Simon says. Show us an example.
Okay. I'm right now logging to our solution. I have 4 properties because I can manage more than one property. It can be 4, 10, 100. I will choose one of those. I want to go to my house and see what's happened right now because I'm on the trip. Yeah. And I can go inside, and we have the Matterport scan with on the wall, as you see, the layer of the IoT devices. And I very fast can see that temperature in my room is 26.6 degrees. In this sensor, 25.3 in the sensor in the corner. I can see that some lights is on, some light is off. And every information I have in very intuitive and nice view.
Mikhail, with
Yes.
the seller, let's say the home builder that's selling 25,000 houses, do you think that they could get more money for the property because they're turning the property over, digitally annotated, the complete digital property management system?
For sure, because they told me that it's value adding for those, and this is something new and something that nobody have it in the market right now. To get the whole scan with the IoT sensors, with the asset information, warranty cards in digital way. Every time you have the big box of the paperwork, as I said before, and I have the same problem in my house because I bought the house for the house builder and I get the box with the papers, and I'm looking for example, last time I'm looking for the instruction manual for my window because I want to make some regulations, and where it is, because I have 10 different places where I can put it. Yeah, because after the moving and I lost somewhere.
All right, so there's a lot of stuff on the screen. I see all this stuff on the right. There's something in the bottom middle, something in the top left, top right. Take us through what we're looking at, maybe whether you're in this living room or kitchen, what all those different things are telling us.
Yeah, this is what do you see on the walls is the IoT devices. It's putting into the 3D space. As you see, this on the up, it's the motion sensor. If it's gray, it means that nobody moving inside. Below, you have temperature sensor. We have also the some power sockets. It's on and off. Here you have some light, for example, with the power consumption right now. As you see, this is some LED small lamps, and it can takes only 1.2 watts of power. And from here, I can also managing and steering every device I have. For example, I have this power socket. I can click it and turn it off, and now this power socket is off. As you see, it's great. I can steering and making the controlling my house using this digital twin scan of the Matterport.
So forgive me for interrupting. The Matterport digital twin looks a little herky-jerky. I apologize. That's WGAN TV Live at 5. I know if I was doing this on my computer, it'd be silky smooth, but because we're from Poland to Atlanta, from Zoom to everything else that we're doing, it's not moving silky smooth. But as any of us know that working with Matterport, it is silky smooth. It looks like you have symbols, icons that represent information on individual devices, or maybe an asset or an IoT device. And it looks like I have controls on the right side as well. So it looks like there's 2 ways to access that particular item. I could click on that power outlet, or I could look on the right side and scroll down to that item.
There is three ways, to
Three
be
ways,
honest.
okay?
Yeah, because one way is the icon on the 3D space. The second one is the sidebar on the right. You have here every device you have in this room where we are currently in the scan. But we have also the dashboard, and in dashboard you have all the devices you have in the room in some normal way, and here has the third way how you can manage and how you can get inside these devices.
So Mikhail, let me pause you there on that screen just for a moment, because I want to say what we're looking at is kind of an old school way of looking at data, meaning it's a little bit more than a spreadsheet. It's annotated, but you really have the Matterport digital twin as a container to be able to visualize exactly where that device is. That said, if you're intimate with your space, and this is an easier way looking at a dashboard by space, then that's an option, which is kind of how before there was SimLab, Simon, a way to maybe do some type of automation. But now you have the next thing, which is the Matterport digital twin as the container. Is that fair to say this is old school, but it's there?
Yeah, this is old school, but it's there because some clients have their own missing the word in English, sorry.
They have their own workflow of how they like to
exactly.
do things. And if looking at all the different spaces within the space, so bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living room, dining room, den, etc., then you can look at the space in that way and then look at all the different assets. So I'm going to say that each of those rectangle boxes is an asset, and then within that asset, I imagine, is the annotation of that asset.
Yeah, but as you see here, I'm putting all the information in the one screen. That's old school look of the house smart home systems, and as you see, it's very complicated to manage. I don't know where is for example, the iron outlet, yeah, because there is iron outlet. Okay, I supposed to be connected the iron, but I'm not sure because the name can be the outlet in the bedroom, yeah, and that's what is the problem.
I do see an icon that looks like a location pin. Boom.
Yeah,
so
I click it.
And you go right there.
Yeah, I'm right there, and I now see where is the iron outlet exactly in the position. I can check if the iron is already on or off. If the outlet right now is on, but I see the power consumption is 0 watts, I can be calm and easy that the iron is off. Yeah, to be 100% sure, I can click it off, because I'm going to the work and I'm wondering that iron is off, or maybe that will be a problem if there will be staying on.
So Mikhail, I know that we're in some hallway, we're in the bathroom areas coming up here. If I wanted to get, that's what I was looking for, is a way to jump to a particular space in the house. I think we're all familiar with the navigation for Matterport in the bottom left, dollhouse, walkthrough, floor plans. Looks like
we have the same as well.
Yes, but in addition, that Simon says jump to the living room, you could do that.
Yeah, I can do that. I can jump to, for example, the TV room. It's one click and I'm in the TV room as well. It's not needed to go the whole path using the scan. I can jump from the room to room, and here I have the more information about the every devices I have in my TV room as well.
Before we look at a back-end demo of the SimLab Simon content management system of how all this gets done, maybe we could just look at a couple more sensors or assets on the right side. And maybe just there's a lot of arrows and diagrams and on and off. Could you take us through just a couple so that we could see how they on the front end work?
Yeah, no problem. Here we have the icon. That means that it's some lamp, some light, and have information about it's on or off in this view. Also, we have the power usage of current this particular device. In the other one, we have the plug. It's very similar. We have also the icon to get the location. When I'm click it, it's only putting the location and the angle of the camera to this one I'm choosing. But we have the different devices connected. For example, here we have the motion sensor, and the motion sensor gives us the information that right now it's no motion because the guy inside it's
Or the
not
cat.
moving.
I actually saw in that bathroom shot that this house had a cat in it.
Yeah, a house had a cat, but the cat is too small to get into the motion sensor move.
Okay.
Here we have the information when was the last move of this motion sensor. It was today at 6 a.m. Right now we have here in Poland 11 p.m. That means that was early morning. Also, the sensor gives us information about the amount of the light. It's 8 lux. It's quite dark inside, and the temperature in the room is 24.8 Celsius. I can change these values also for Fahrenheit as well for the US market, and that can be also in Celsius. We have some different, here we have some plugs, but on the salon we have also the curtains, and in the curtains it's set if the curtain is open or closed, and also it's visualized on the side.
Okay. I noticed there's some icons. There's one that looks like a calendar and some other things. And, you know, maybe we could take a look at those icons in the top right.
Yeah, they have here the 4 icons because we have the 4 layers of the visualization using the Matterport scan. First of all is the IoT devices, as you're looking right now, but we have also this asset I mentioned before. It's using the Matterport tags, but as I said, with some steroids, and we can put the more information inside. For example, here we have the Philips TV, and we have some free text, some 2 photos of those, and some documentation about the invoice, manual, and warranty card.
So help me out. Photos, video, text, PDF,
Excel, Word files, every files you want you put inside it can be the movies from the YouTube, for example, and also the maintenance as well.
So it may be that the manufacturer is not creating an original video for that TV set. It's just, this is the manufacturer's video. It's on YouTube. It's how to run that TV set.
Yeah, it's very important and very useful, for example, in our office, because in our office we have very nice tagged the printer. Yeah, and this printer we have the manual, the printer we have some very short tutorial, and if somebody goes to our company, it's 5 minutes to show the tutorial, to make some quick view to manual, and they know how it uses it without any training and spending some other people to train for using the printer in our office.
If I go to work full-time for SimLab, I should not ask how to run the printer. I should check out the digital twin with Simon, click on the printer, and watch the tutorial video.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, there's some more symbols on here. There's an icon for location that looks like some.
This is icon for location. When I click it, I'm moving to the location. The icon for the editing, because I can edit also the whole information. I can putting and removing the photos and as well for the movies.
Now, is that
Um,
because we're in the content management system as opposed to the front end, and this is the guest that's staying in that unit?
This is the I have the permission for editing this one. If
Okay.
if I am the guest, I can make some permission for the guest that he can only read only this asset and having permission to editing, deleting, or so on.
Okay, so you got to these, I don't want to say assets. What would you call these when the video, photos?
This is asset in our name.
Okay.
But this whole thing we have inside the asset, but it's the container for the information about the equipment, about the furnitures, everything you want to tag and everything you want to add the information about it, you can put inside this asset and this container.
Okay, great. So if you close that, and then I was looking at the TV, if I clicked on the icon in the top right of the TV set, would I get the same thing? Meaning you called that information up from the right-hand menu, but you could get it from clicking on the TV or going in the top left corner and expanding the menu and then going to the dashboard, going to the living room, presumably, and finding the same thing. 3 ways to get that to get there.
Yeah, here is the Philips
TV. Okay, great. Could you take us into is there anything else on the front end that you wanted to show us?
Yeah, it is, because there is also some maintenance as well, the maintenance function. And here we have some calendar with every future event we have in some our assets. For example, the kids cooking classes.
Okay, so I see you've had fun annotating a calendar, but if that was a commercial office space that was mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, that might actually say here's the service history of the chiller unit.
Yeah, it can be also,
and
because
it may be upcoming dates that it needs to be serviced.
Yeah, right now it's only the information, but in the future we're working to put this information to the serviceman and also to connect to this e-commerce services.
Okay, so that's 3 of the 4 icons. There's also, it looks like a play button.
Yeah, the play button is the scenes. The scene means that it's something automatically doing. For example, I can put for the scene all the curtains. Yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is the roller shutter, 4 curtains here, and only in this one click, close curtain, I can curtain all those 4 without going to every particular one. And this scenes is also possible to managing and creating in our software.
So it might be I have the Friday Night Romance setting, and then I hit one button and it actually takes care of the curtains, the music, the temperature, the lighting,
the light,
everything.
Yeah, everything you want, everything you will program in our solution, in our software. It's one click and everything is done.
And the problem that solves is all those things might have been with different platforms using different technologies, and you'd have 7 different remote controls. Literally, you'd have a basket that would contain all the remote controls. Oh, this is the one for the TV. This is the one for the sound bar. This is the one for the curtains. This is the one for the temperature. This is the one that controls the lights.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. And I think the best example is if you are going out from your home, to the work, for example, and this is one click and the curtains will close, the light will goes off, the alarm will set on, the door will be closed, and the vacuum cleaner will be on and cleaning your room in one click.
Yes, I saw there was a Roomba there in the house that we
have Roomba as well.
So I happen to have the Neato XV11 laser guided robotic vacuum cleaner, but my generation doesn't have the Internet of Things thing. So now I have a reason to get the latest version of the vacuum because I could actually tell it to vacuum while I'm not home, as
Yeah.
opposed to trying to schedule it on the device. I could say, oh, I need to vacuum. Something's happening. We need to vacuum.
And it's access also from this right panel here, and also we can put it into the wall as well as the IoT devices and everything.
Okay. Could you take us to the panel on the left again? Because I think we only looked at a couple things on the left side. Could you take us through this menu?
Yeah, we have in this menu this 3D walk you are seeing right now, the dashboard that was also presented by me, but we have many more backend features here. For example, this is providers. It means gives us the information which provider we have connected to our solution. Right now we have some settings for those. I have some I think some connection problems. I don't know why, because there is.
Well, again, we've got a lot of technology going on just to do our show.
Yeah,
here. So
we have the settings about the property and some. Oh, it's reconnecting. Okay. And we have some preferences about the user preferences, for example, the units of the Celsius, watts, kilowatts, and the possibility to show the electricity price. If I turn it on and put the price and the currency of the 1 kilowatt per hour currency price, that will show me the price using per hour which each particular device on this 3D model.
Okay, so we're looking at the typically the front end of how the content would be consumed. Is there, before we look at a back end demo, is there anything else to look at on Simon by SimLab on the front end?
Yeah, the one very important thing I want to show you is the user roles and preferences, because it's very important that we can put the many user to one property and give them the different privileges to using the software. For example,
okay, so just to be clear, what we've just done is we're now in this SimLab Simon content management system, the back end. This is not necessarily me renting a Airbnb going to see this page. This is because you're the admin on this account and we're going into your content management system. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
This see only the owner of the apartment and the administrator, and from here you can manage the many users and manage the information and the role of every user. Okay. For example, I can take some role and I can put the confirmation icons with every access to every room I have in my house, to every device I have connected in my house, and to every asset I have connected to my house.
So this is awesome. We can summarize this as there are a bazillion ways to set permissions based on, in general, rooms, devices, assets, and scenes.
Everything.
So you can have it at a very granular level of, nope, that person can't touch that thermometer, that temperature, yeah. Or, oh, okay, this is the property owner, this is the property manager, this is the team that services just the electrical, this is the team that services just the plumbing, this is the team, and so forth for properties. Yeah. Yeah.
And okay. For example, for the employees in the office also, they can get only the permission to steering their own room, but not changing the temperature on the colleague and on the right and on the left, yeah, and annoying him.
Okay, great. I don't want to do too deep a dive into the back end, but I really do want to see how one of these sensors, what I think of as a matter tag, as you mentioned, on steroids, how you might annotate one or two or three of the items in this space.
It's no problem. I can add some asset. For that, it's very easy. It's only need to click this add asset icon, and I have some place to put some information. I don't know, it will be wall. Because that can be everything. And here I have the place I can put the information. For example, it will be gray concrete wall. I can put some information here. I can put some photographs also from the drag and drop from some. I will check. I have the
I tell you what, we don't even need to do this, because if you go to your website, you have all these training videos. I just really wanted to see, it wasn't any harder than clicking the plus button, putting your cursor where you want to add an annotation, and then you literally can add photos, video, a document, a YouTube video, any kind of digital asset that you would want to annotate this space. So I see that that's super easy. I don't see, though, where I would say, oh, this is actually a smart thing. This is an IoT device that controls temperature. Where would that be added?
That we added here in this IoT layer. For example, I want to put on the wall I have everything put it, but I will change one of those. For example, the motion sensor here I have. It's only need to be clicked on the sensor. We have now the information about every device inside the sensor, this pen icon, and I can need to click this icon with the pin, refresh, and click it somewhere else.
But how did you put that there to begin with?
Yeah, this is automatically imported from the provider. When I'm creating the apartment and I'm connecting to the provider with this example to the Fibaro, everything is automatically importing to our solution. I have all of those devices on the right, and I need to click on the device and put it on the wall. It takes, today I'm making the apartment something like 70 square meters and some 25 devices, and it takes me and the client 25 minutes to manage whole the apartment with all the IoT devices inside on the walls.
So there's some import of all the devices. So lack of a better example for me, let's say I have 3 different Nest units in our house, one on each floor. The Nest may not be the best example because that's not one of the platforms you're using right now, but coming, it would automatically import, and then I just need to drag it to the correct room, and then in the room, put it in the correct space. Okay, so I began today's show talking about that this was really a show for Matterport service providers that are shooting either new multifamily communities, homes and apartments, or commercial office spaces, particularly MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So I think what today's show so far has enabled, excuse me, a Matterport service provider to understand the intersection of Matterport plus SimLab Simon. So let me riff for a moment, and then maybe you can jump in. So I'm thinking, if I'm a Matterport service provider and I've been shooting multifamily home for the purpose of marketing the properties, and maybe there's some Matter tags, I'm missing a huge opportunity to add a huge amount of value to my client by saying, hey, you're already doing all this IoT devices that you're building into your property. And oh, by the way, you have to somehow give all these manuals for the HVAC units, the refrigerator, the oven, the stove, the microwave, etc. Imagine that this is the way that you could deliver the handoff of the house and probably get more money from homeowners that are willing to pay for that level of simplicity of managing their property, which will probably help them save money related to electricity, just as, or gas or oil, just as an example. Is that the kind of thing that a Matterport service provider should be thinking when they look at SimLab Simon?
Yeah, and going back to the client again and again and making some new scans, making some new configuration, adding some new assets, because they can be do it by the client, okay, but as we know, not all clients will want to do by self, but the Matterport provider can only take the money and take the salary for configuring everything.
So there's really two opportunities there that I'm hearing. The first is maybe the builder or the property management company is only engaging you to shoot 10 of the models of the 500 units in that community. And if they see how they can turn over each property, and each property is likely slightly different in one way or the other, then it may be that the Matterport service provider has an opportunity to shoot 500 units rather than shooting 10 different model types. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, it's correct. Because there is also the shooting after the furnishing, after during the living people inside, not only the shooting the property used for the marketing stuff, for the some demo apartments into the flats. Yes,
and then second, there's the add-on of services. So this may or may not appeal to a Matterport service provider, but if you're watching today's show and you've got and you feel some affinity for how that back end was done, it was super simple, that it may be that the developer says, I don't want to get involved in that. Could you please, I'll work with you on the first unit, but could you do all the others? So there's actually an opportunity as a service provider to trick out the space.
Yeah, and also the service provider can supply the customer, for example, for the IoT smart devices, because installing and supplying the devices is very easy and very simple. And I think also the service provider can manage it.
Awesome. I want to switch gears for a second and say, hey, that second category was Matterport service providers shooting commercial office spaces, particularly the space within a commercial office that contains the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, the MEP space. So again, let me riff here a little bit, is to say, well, maybe I've been engaged to shoot during construction before the drywall, maybe after the drywall, maybe I've been engaged to do virtual staging, maybe I've been done to shoot the finished space because it's going to be a property that still has to be leased or sold. So in the life cycle of a commercial space, maybe I'm being engaged for one or more of those opportunities. So I'm thinking a light bulb should go off for a Matterport service provider watching this show about the intersection of Matterport plus SimLab Simon for an MEP space, that this is Matterport Matter tags on steroids. I almost don't even want to say Matterport Matter tags, because it may even not even be possible to explain that SimLab Simon is 1,000 times more powerful than an individual Matter tag in terms of annotating a space. So if I'm a Matterport Pro, I should be looking at this and say, if I'm not being engaged to shoot the MEP space because they're thinking, oh, we don't need that space for marketing, we just need to show off the nice lobby, the nice offices, the nice public spaces, I'm not being engaged to shoot the MEP space, that this should be a signal to say, oh, I have this awesome solution for my existing client to annotate the MEP space in a way that lets them manage not just the one property, but multiple properties across states and across countries in a super efficient way of not only the static information, the manuals, the training videos, but the dynamic IoT data sensors within that space for temperature, pressure, for gas, for oil, for water, whatever it might be.
And in future, also with the tracking of the some items and person inside the space. But we have one more thing I didn't mention about it, because now we are working also with the tool for the importing the matter tags for the existing scans. If somebody want to get our solution that can import all the matter tags with the information of matter tag and converting to our asset, and add some other information if they want to our solution, that it's not necessary to double do it using our solution instead of the Matterport.
So, and I'm guessing that SimLab Simon has developed that utility to import matter tags into the SimLab Simon platform, because you're actually getting asked that question. So that should trigger Matterport service providers. If you're already doing commercial properties that have dozens or hundreds of matter tags, then here's a way to add a huge amount of value to those matter tags, because any of us that have worked with matter tags, you say, well, that's great to annotate a space, but it really isn't practical when you have dozens or hundreds, or you have dynamic content that needs to change, and you need the integration to a content management system to make the content change within the Matterport digital twin, the container. Are there other things for a Matterport service provider watching today's show about the MEP space in particular that should trigger? Again, I've mentioned maybe they're only doing a portion of the life cycle of the building. They definitely need to be in the MEP space, the physical area, doing Matterport scans. If they're doing, as you mentioned, a lot of matter tags someplace to annotate a commercial space, are there other things that trigger for a Matterport service provider of why they would get either engaged for more scans, doing more digital twins, or some service business of add-on to help annotate spaces?
For those, we have the also for the staging, we have the different solution, and this one will be also in our solution that will get the opportunity to making more scans for the Matterport provider of this space. But
pause there for a second, because you've reminded me that WGAN TV Live at 5 did a guest on our show was your founder, Marek Kozlek, founder and CEO of SimLab, and was on the show just about a month ago, May 19th, 2022, doing intro to SimLab stages plus Matterport for AEC design and build communications, which is way cool. It's kind of like time travel through Matterport scans. I would encourage anyone that's working on commercial spaces or wants to work on commercial spaces in the build out of all these phases to watch the show. It's in the We Get Around Network forum, WGANforum.com. Go to the search box, just type in SimLab stages, SIMLAB space STAGES. It'll call up that show. So that's yet another opportunity for Matterport service providers. More scans, add-on services. Does it trigger any other thoughts for you, Mikhail?
There is many other, but we right now are talking with the clients, and we are learning from the clients all the time. And the possibilities and ideas are coming from everywhere. And we have some information about the integrating for some, for example, white labels for somebody, and selling the white label for the particular house builder or particular facility manager and so on. We have the questions about the integrating with the some particular alarm system, some different areas and different types of the client, what we didn't mention, and
Yeah.
thinking about that.
So Mikhail, I love that because that's kind of an open-ended instruction to Matterport service providers to think about the clients and the categories that they have of SimLab Stages, SimLab Simon. We've only talked about two niches, big niches, multi-family communities of homes and apartments and commercial office spaces, particularly the MEP space. But there are obviously 101 uses, 1,001 uses for Matterport. And if you're a Matterport service provider shooting some other vertical, the creativity is kind of the intersection, or innovation is the intersection of something that was designed for one purpose that gets used in a different, unexpected way. And that's where Matterport pros, Matterport service providers should be thinking about, oh, this SimLab Simon, I get it in terms of how it's working for multifamily and how it's working for commercial office spaces, MEP spaces. I can see how it applies to X, Y, and Z Matterport spaces that I'm doing for other clients. And I can see that if I can introduce this to my clients, then they're going to have me shoot more Matterport tours, and maybe there's an add-on service. And I think I would just add one other thing to what you said, Mikhail, is if I'm shooting for any client and they're only having me shoot a Matterport tour for one space, they have trusted colleagues, they have friends. I want those introductions. And the way to get those introductions is to overwhelm my client with added value to help be in service to them. And then I think if you're working on a commercial office space, wow, that company, you're doing a Matterport digital twin in Atlanta, and that company has locations across the United States or around the globe. That's where you want to be. And the way to be there is to not just sell a Matterport digital twin, but to offer the SimLab Simon comprehensive solution for digital property management.
Yeah, and the very nice and interesting, I think, example of different client and different scan was I spoke last time with some manufacturer of some big luxury yachts. And they want also to make some digital twin on the yacht and steering the IoT device and putting some assets of the yacht using the Matterport technology and our solution to as the layer on up of that.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome example. And we've obviously have been reading and learning about that some yachts can sell for $300 million. Tricking out a yacht with Matterport digital twin plus SimLab Simon seems like a awesome way to help a yacht company sell the next yacht and then provide an awesome turnover of the yacht to the client.
Yeah, because the yacht is also renting for some passengers and so on, and every passenger have very also intuitive and universal interface to steering their cabin and everything inside the yacht, and making some information about when is the supper and when is the dinner, what is the menu. It can be everything inside our solution as well.
Yeah, this is so awesome. I think we could probably talk for hours, days, and
Yeah, I
months
think, yeah.
just on what are all the different potential applications. I want to actually close by asking you the hardest question. If you only had 30 seconds to describe SimLab Simon, what would you say?
I would say that is the container and the digital experience of the property, because it can be also containing all the data, all the information, and also controlling, monitoring, and steering your property. It's everything inside. Everything what you need on your property is inside the Simon.
Mikhail, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much for everybody watching.
We've been visiting with Mikhail Chopa. He is Simon product owner at SimLab. If you missed the website, it's SimLab Inc., SimLabinc.com, or you can go directly to the microsite for Simon, sim-on.com, Simon. And for Mikhail in Poland, and thank you and all your friends and colleagues for everything that you're doing in behalf of Ukraine and Ukraine people. Mikhail, and in Poland, I'm Dan Smigrod in Atlanta, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum, and you've been watching WGAN TV live.